What is up, everybody? I have a very special guest joining me today. He is a welterweight and a very special one. He's one that not a lot of people talk about. I don't really know why. That's why I had to hit him up. And next month at Bellator 290, he is going to be fighting February 4th in Los Angeles, California. He joins me today, Mr. Ethan Hughes. Ethan, thank you so much for being here. I have been really wanting to talk to you for like over a year, and we're finally making this happen.
Appreciate it, man.
Just about martial arts in Mississippi. I didn't really know a whole lot about Mississippi, and I didn't even really know a whole lot about martial arts not that long ago. I very quickly have found out there's a lot of you guys running around. There's a lot of you guys that are brand new fighters just entering the scene. I don't really think about Mississippi being a hotbed for martial arts, but I'm finding out very, very quickly there's so many of you guys out there that are really, really good. Can you talk to me a little bit about what the scene is like where you're from?
Well, I'm from a small town, Mineral Wells, Texas. Pretty small town, and we moved here back in whenever I was 8 years old. So I think that's 2009.
Mhm.
Just a little perspective on how young I am. Just a reminder.
Thank you.
And yeah, man, we for the longest time we wanted to get into MMA because it was like the closest thing to what they do in anime. That's my real reason. Like Goku, he was like the martial artist. He showed the warrior spirit, and they all made it look awesome. And I just wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to know what they felt whenever they fight each other and they talk about the thrill of the battle. And that was a really cool thing. So that's like the young, naive me.
Mhm.
And so me and my brother actually were both martial artists. He's older than me, and he got in the sport first. So our parents didn't want us fighting at first,
Mhm.
believe it or not, because it was like scary. Of course, you're going to see your baby get a black eye, potentially worse, and we've gotten worse. And being in a small town, we're in a small town. There's like three traffic lights in this town. We just went with whatever we could find. Any martial arts school, we didn't care if it was karate or aikido. I'm glad it's not that one. Um, and we found a jujitsu school, and they're actually the same team that we're a part of now.
Mhm.
Um, we walked in, and my brother walked in first because right after he got a job, he was able to pay for it by himself. So he walked into the jiu-jitsu school. He started going there for a couple months, and I was like, I want to get in there. And my parents were like, all right, because you're a little younger and can't have a job yet, he's doing it. We'll let you get in it. And from there, again, our whole goal the entire time was to find a mixed martial arts. That's what we wanted to do. Jujitsu wasn't the goal, or a martial art wasn't the goal. We just wanted to get into the sport.
Mhm.
And so we trained with those guys for like, man, I think it was like a year or 2 years where we just did jujitsu, and we sort of met some of the other members of our team that are in different locations throughout the South. And we started training with Kurt Hollabaugh. He's had a couple fights in the UFC. He's a
Mhm.
very good fighter. And I think one of the things that helped us too to like find Kurt is that Kurt, like, you have a bunch of around here, there's a bunch of MMA guys, like you said. But Kurt's not even the closest either. He's like an hour and 45 minutes. That's how long we drive to go train with him.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a lot of commitment to do it. And we drove there because we really connected with Kurt well. Because whenever you start with an instructor, I guess it's like they have to earn your respect,
Mhm.
you know. And some of those other guys, man, they can teach the martial art, but if you're young and you have that energy and your raw strength is able to overcome their skill, then you sort of underestimate the value of skill. And
Mhm.
Kurt, first time I trained with him, he almost knocked me out. I said, "Whoa, stop!" Because he threw bombs because we would throw bombs, and that's how we learned. We humbled ourselves in a sense. We knew that our regular strength and ability isn't going to be enough, And
Sure.
so I think it was because of that that he put us in our place more, that we were able to learn and grow with him. And from there, we were very serious to him. We said that we wanted to do this, and he always said, that you should have 8 MMA fights at least before you turn pro.
Hmm.
That way, to see if you really want to do it or not. And at this point, I was super excited. I had no idea what to expect with a cage fight. You know, I I was so inexperienced. I was just the carrying that energy from anime and just being awesome. That was my full mindset and goal behind all of that. So whenever I got to the fight itself, again, I the weight cut was something that I did not expect. Um, and even beyond that, there's just all of the stuff of maybe people talking trash about you, and you're going in front of crowds of people, so there's the stage fright. And so I was a ball of nerves the whole time going into it. But whenever I got there, I was like, all right, this is going to go good now. This is the part that I had got ready for. And pretty much as soon as I went out there for my first fight, I got beat up. Like, the dude just ran at me. He threw a bunch of punches. I hit the ground. He was throwing more. And I lost all of the skill, all of the excitement, all of the joy that I got from it. And it was instantly just like fear and anger, because I
Hmm.
was like, I'm going to get this guy back. I'm not going to lose in like a minute, because
Right.
I talked all this stuff about how I he's 200 pounds, and man, I'm feeling every bit of that 200 pounds right in my face. So, I endured all of the punches that he threw. Like, he was really coming to get me out of there, in the first round. So he spent everything trying to knock me out as fast as he could. And again, 17, I did not have the man strength to really get this guy off of me. So I
Right.
was struggling and just trying to survive. And so after the first round, I was nervous because I blew through all my energy too, because it was so many nerves just
Yeah, of
inside.
course.
You spend so much energy trying to keep yourself conserved, that like you wasted it.
Right.
And so at this point, I just ran on willpower, and I thought that that was very cool as well, because I got to see how much I really had in me,
Hmm.
because you don't really know what you have until it's a situation like that. And I felt it, man. I felt the fear, I felt the nerves, but I felt like I could win. And the second round, he was more tired, so I was able to get some success in. I started landing those punches. I just wanted to punch the guy so bad, and I
Sure.
got to land them, and it felt awesome.
I was just gonna say, like, by the third, what happened? Sounds like you're just getting ready to tell me.
Yeah, yeah. By the third round, we were both just dog tired, and I managed that bit of skill. Once all of the nerves and everything started calming down, and it was just a dog fight, I then was able to rely on my jujitsu skill and background to submit the guy. And boy, it felt like an occasion.
I mean, that what a story! Like, you're talking about like the training, having to go through like a cut, going into the cage, and like having a grown man 10 years your senior blitz you and like try to like knock you out. It's like in that first couple of minutes, it's like you probably like had to like go through like that a mental process while you're getting punched in the face. It's like, how bad do I really want this? Like, is this something I really want to do? Like, because you could have given up and no one would have given you crap about it. Like, hey, you're 17, you're a 17-year-old kid, man. Like, it is what it is. It's not a huge deal. But to go through that adversity and to respond the way that you did, and to get your hand raised at the end of the night, that had to have been a validating feeling. Like, no, I can do this.
Oh man, you would think that I would have felt better after that, because yeah, I did get to see what was in me and all that stuff, but I did I didn't feel good at all. I felt like I was a loser. That's how I felt. Even
Uh-huh.
though I won, I felt like a loser, because I just got beat up and I was afraid, and
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really felt that fear before, because I'd never, like, I've trained with the guys, but in training, we're not trying to kill each other.
Sure.
So I'd never really been hit like a man before, and I got hit like a man for the first time there. And I was afraid. I was
Mm-hmm.
very afraid, and I didn't want to tell anybody that I was afraid, because I thought that would have made me look like less of a man. Uh, I kind of had some masculinity issues going on. You know, you don't
Yeah.
want to look weak, by that you have that fear whenever you're going into it. But I was afraid, and I just remember like I'm glad anime as well has evolved from
Hmm.
what it was before, because back then it was also like that. It was about being cool and the awesomeness of it. But now there are more shows and stuff, and it's silly, I know, but there's a show Legend of Korra. It's like the second Avatar. It's a cartoon,
Hmm.
and in it there's a girl who fights against somebody who like takes her power away, and he just beats her up, and so she gets like PTSD. And
Hmm.
I definitely felt that. And so seeing like these shows, they kind of help you to know how to get through it. And I definitely needed it at the time. So I kind of let go of my masculinity, my
Hmm.
inner, trying to be manly, trying to be tough and keeping everything to myself, to now I've changed why I do it. Because that definitely, it changed. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't
Hmm.
want to have a fight after my first one, but I did. And it was like every single time I fight, I'm afraid. I'm deathly afraid. Probably
Hmm.
more than most people that I see. I
Hmm.
definitely express it more now. And now I get like a sense of pride because I am afraid and I can still do it. I'm afraid, but I can still go in there and I can be courageous and I can see what I have inside of me, and I can inspire other people who deal with fears and anything.
Hmm.
And that, man, that feeling, that's what I fight for.
Do you think it's a fair assumption that every fighter is afraid, but just not everyone's admitting it? Like there are
Uh,
degrees of being afraid, but like I would imagine you could go out there like Ryan Bader, for example, right? That guy's a badass and he's fought like how many times? Like almost 30 times or whatever the case may be. Like he's a pro and he has fought the best of the best. But I would imagine every single time Ryan Bader walks out, there's a little part of him that is afraid. And he's probably programmed like a cyborg to the point to where it's just like, okay, like he's probably wired perfectly where he recognizes that and he deals with it. Everyone deals with it in their own way. But I got to imagine you have somebody like that at the very top of the heap, and then somebody like you who's like newer to the sport. It's like everyone's probably afraid, but just not everyone's willing to talk about it, right? Because like we don't
yeah.
want, for whatever reason, right? It's like, oh, I don't want anyone to think I'm a sissy or whatever the case may be. But like, I don't think that. Like, I think that's like a normal human response to a very stressful environment with violence thrown into the mix. Like, of course, everyone would be afraid, right? Like, that's normal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I agree. I do think that everybody is afraid, or maybe not everybody. I'm sure there's probably somebody out there who just like who doesn't think about it very much,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just they're all about being awesome. And I don't know. I feel like it's simple people, kind
Mm-hmm.
of. Like I feel like Paulo Costa doesn't have very many nerves when walking out. Not to say about him, he's a great fighter, uh,
Yes, he
but
is.
he just seems like he would be like simple, or like Marvin Vittori, I would say, because like
Two
you don't wear your shorts backwards. It was crazy. I'm sorry. I feel like he doesn't think about it that much.
Hey, I don't think either of those gentlemen think much about anything. I completely agree with everything that you're saying, Ethan. I think it's really interesting though that and it says a lot about your character because like you're talking about the things that are like taboo to talk about in MMA. It's like, nah, I'm not afraid of anything. Like I'm a superhero. I'm like this like badass person. But outside of it, it's like it's a stressful environment. It's psychologically taxing and
It is.
it's one of those things where if you're not like locked in mentally, it doesn't matter how good your jujitsu is, doesn't matter how good your striking is, you've already lost if you're not locked in. And
Oh,
and
without
and
that.
and, and I wanted to ask you, like that's a really important question. So like when it's fight night and you're in the back of, and you're in that back room and you're hitting the mitts and you're getting warmed up and you hear the music and the crowd and that person with the clipboard and the headset comes in. They're like, all right, you got 10 minutes or whatever the case is. Like, you know, your blood pressure probably starts going up, like your heart starts maybe pounding a little bit more. Like, what are some of the things that you do to like kind of get into the zone? I've never really asked a fighter that before, but I think that's a great question, particularly for the younger fighters that are listening to this right now, because everyone out there has to try to like figure out like what their zone is. And I'm curious, like, what is it that you do to kind of like get everything into the right frame of mind and focus before you make a huge walk?
Man, I'm an overthinker.
Mm-hmm.
I always think a lot about everything, you know. I think, oh, I'm gonna go out there and this guy's probably gonna knock me out. But it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I just like, man, to get in the zone. I don't know. It doesn't feel like the zone to me.
Mm-hmm.
I always just think about my anxiety, and it's like I just tell myself it's going to be okay no matter what happens. Yeah, even if I get knocked out, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just you have to be able to accept the fact that you can lose in order to win. I feel like that's a big part of it. Like you can't really expect to just like if there's another guy who has every bit as willpower as you, which is very rare, but
Mm-hmm.
for people to have the same. But if you have somebody who has the same willpower as you, it's going to be something like skill. And if you match in skill, then it's luck,
Mm-hmm.
So you got to expect whatever success you want to have, the other guy can have too. And so I always, I don't know if I get in the zone, but I always review the simplest, most basic things that I know that I can do no matter what the guy does to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
know that I can always land my takedown, or I could get my arm bar or something like that. I always review one skill set at this particular time that I've been going over that I
Mm-hmm.
feel good about, and I'm like, okay, I know that I can get this. And I was fortunate last time, man. I had Burt Watson. Not sure if you're familiar. I'm sure you are, but it's a pretty good guy to have out there before, because like it was right before I walked out for my last fight. I said, "I'm nervous, Burt. Do you think I'm gonna win?" And he said, "Man, you don't got to worry about nothing. This is your fight, your night. I'm gonna kill it. Let's get it, baby." And I was like, "Okay."
And there you go. Like, you know, and that brings me to like a really different point, and it's about you specifically. Like, these are the facts. You're a young guy. You have less than a handful of fights to your name. Most of the guys that I talk to around the country and around the world at this level, they're on the regional scene. They're maybe the very first fight on like the main card. Here you are, like you're fighting in like a major MMA promotion. Like, there's bright lights. You're looking around. It's like there's freaking Yoel Romero just freaking walking right the hell right by me. Like, what the hell is this? Like, your experience. Like, I know after a while, like just like anything, it's like, yeah, okay, it is what it is, and like you reset and you get used to it, and it's not that big of a
No,
deal.
I'm not used to it.
Well, but it's one of those things though where it's like most people don't get these sort of like opportunities, and I also feel like for you, it's great because it's like this is fantastic. Like, what an incredible gift! What an incredible way to like go out there and compete on the stage. With that being said, there's another side to that though, and that other side is I'm sure every single time like you're getting ready to fight, Tyler McFistface is in your DM saying like, "Man, I beat the hell out of you," or whatever the case may be. Like, who is this kid? How come like he's getting these opportunities? He's got less than 5 fights. What's the deal? And like, I'm sure there's like a lot of like pressure that you probably put on yourself to go out there and perform. And I had to like I wanted to frame it in the way where it's like you've never lost in your amateur career. You're an undefeated professional, a very talented, a very gifted fighter. But I also feel like because of your age and because you're like a gifted fighter that everyone talks about, or people like me anyway, they talk about like, wow, this guy's like really good. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Like after a while, like that's a lot of pressure that's on your shoulders, and you're like 21 years old. I don't think most 21-year-old prize fighters are like having to like cope with that amount of pressure. And I just kind of wanted to ask, like, what are some of the things that you have to do to try to like level set on some of that stuff?
Man, and yeah, you saying stuff about people messaging you and stuff. It was actually kind of funny for the last fight that I had. Again, I was fortunate because it was like a 2 week, it was about 2 week notice fight. I was literally eating pizza whenever that he said, "Hey, we need a fill in. It's on Bellator. It's against Mahmoud Sebi. He's an Olympic wrestler. He's undefeated. Um, do you want this fight?" And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. But, I took it, or I said that I was going to. And the dude said, oh, never mind. We got somebody for it. But then another one of his guys had messaged me and he was like, hey, man, because I finished eating the pizza after this. And he said, oh, actually, yeah, do you want this fight? I'm like, yes. And so I was like, I was definitely in like the 90s. I was like 190 something.
That's not too
And
bad. That's not too bad.
it's not too bad, man. Like 2 weeks notice, and like the next week I flew out. So I had 1 week when I was at home, and then the next week I flew out. And
Mm-hmm.
so, there was definitely like there wasn't a lot of time that I got people messaging me, but in those 2 weeks, there was probably something like 20 or 30 people from Egypt that had messaged me stuff like, "Oh, you're gonna leave on the stretcher. Mahmoud's gonna kill you. Um, you know, you're gonna lose, you're gonna die, just saying those things." And I was so happy after I lost, and I was gonna try and say something back to them, like, look who ended up losing, or
Yeah.
something, something like your guy didn't win, you know, and they deleted their
Yeah.
their so I was like, dang it. I was super excited about that. But in terms of like pressure that I feel, there's some pressure. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want to impress my family and some of my friends, but I don't know. I don't really feel it that much because those are the only people that I really want to impress, and just going out there and facing it. I feel like the fear that I have from fighting in general, there's nothing that can be more pressure for me than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether fans have expectations of me, and I appreciate fans having expectations of me to do good and liking me and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing feels harder than overcoming that. And my family, they're proud of me for just doing that. And I'm proud of myself because I am so afraid and I still do it. Um, so yeah, pressure that I feel, it's all in here. It's all my own pressure. And I just, I pray. Not everybody does. I do. I'm religious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I tell myself everything's gonna be okay. I talk with my family members and I tell them that I'm afraid, and they just say that they're there for me. If I'm having like a panic attack about it, I have an amazing support system, and I really can't describe how blessed I truly am because
Mm-hmm.
everything that has happened for me has, without a doubt, been because of other people. It wasn't me, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I stood there whenever I won, and I was the guy who ended up be going there and being in the cage and doing all of that stuff. So I did my part, but most of it is everybody else. I just do the fighting. That's all I do. I get there, and the rest of the stuff is my team and my family, and so that helps a lot with not feeling it so bad as knowing that I have their help.
I think that's a huge benefit. Of course, not everybody has that. You're very, very fortunate. Ethan, does it ever get to a point in your fights where you transition though from like where the fear starts to ebb and then like it becomes like fun, like you're just having fun?
Yeah, yeah, actually, sometimes it does. It normally takes the third round, like to the
Mm-hmm.
third round. I haven't been to a fifth round yet, with anything, but it was trying to think. Let's see. So for my first three fights, no, my first four fights, I won them all first round.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like I didn't get past the fear because all of the adrenaline was going. So it was kind of in that first round that everything happened. and I was I able to get the finish, so I didn't have to linger on that fear very much. Um, so it was the let's see, one, two, three, four. Yeah, my fifth fight that I had. And it was after an injury. I believe I tore my ACL, and this was my first fight back after a year of trying to recover, and after COVID had hit. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was fighting this dude who was like 6'1" or 6'2", so he's a lot bigger than me. I'm like 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit upset that Bellator had me at 5'8" on one of their posters, but I mean, it's okay. Just a little bitter. But yeah. So anyway, everybody I fight is bigger than me anyway. Up and before this point and after this point that I had fought this guy. So I fought him, and I didn't feel a whole lot of fear because I had fought for that promotion. It was Empire FC, and I had fought for them like 3 times. Because the first one was at a different place, but so I fought for these guys, so I was a little familiar with the area, and I was thinking about a girl at the time and trying to impress her because she was there,
Sure.
and I didn't feel so quite as nervous about the fight. I just wanted to win it,
Mm-hmm.
and I started fighting with this dude. I had a lot of success early on. Like I landed my punches as soon as I threw them, and I got the guy to the ground, and I was doing my thing, and so a lot of that fear wasn't there for that one, and but I wasn't having fun until after the first round. It was at the second that I was tired, and the dude was getting tired, and I was landing my shots, and I had the whole arena was screaming because it was awesome, and that
Mm-hmm.
was like the first real like that was like it wasn't the first dog fight because I forgot my first one was a 3 round fight, but that one was the whole time. I misspoke on that one. Yeah, the first one was fear the whole time. And for this one though, it was I really started to have fun because me and this guy were just exchanging punches, back and forth, and we were both just standing there, dog tired, like ugh, ugh, ugh.
A slog fest.
Yes, it was a slugfest, and like everybody in the arena was loving it, and I was like, man, this is the moment. This is the thrill of the fight. That's the anime moment that I was looking for, and man, I felt it.
Well, you are going to have another anime moment here in a few weeks. You're fighting a guy. I hope I say his name right. Yusuf Karakaya. I hope I said it right. Yusuf, if you're watching this and I didn't get it right, I apologize. But he looks like a tough dude. He's been out of the cage for a couple of years. I don't look too much into that just because in the whole COVID era and things are just starting to kind of get back to normal. I don't really think too much of the absence, but I look at it. I really don't know a whole lot about your opponent. Can you tell me a little bit about in this particular situation with your opponent having one pro fight? How do you approach your game plan for a guy that maybe doesn't have any tape out there? Like, what is it that you do to try to kind of get a sense of like what it is that you could expect, or is it just something you don't even think about and just kind of go forward and kind of make an estimation?
Well, now you see, if you look on YouTube, you can find more about the guy because he only has one MMA fight,
Mm-hmm.
and he fought another kickboxer because
Mm-hmm.
that's what Yusuf did before he was kickboxing, and he has a bunch of fights on YouTube of his kickboxing matches, and one of them that he fought was even Nikki Holskin.
Oh,
I don't know if you
okay.
know who that is, but he's like a yeah, yeah, he's a big time guy, man. And of course, Nikki Holskin kind of dogged him. Like he landed a body shot and the dude shelled up, and then
Mm-hmm.
he was landing other good shots. And then I think at the end, the dude threw a flying knee, and it looked like my opponent's nose kind of exploded.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. But I don't think I could do much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't put too much stock into that, you know.
Right.
But I don't think I would have quit as much as it seemed like he did.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was also a bigger stage than I've ever fought on, so I don't know what kind of pressure he was dealing with either. It looked like he was feeling the pressure though, and it said that his record was like what was it at the time? I think it was like 40 and 20. So he has a lot of kickboxing experience.
Hmm.
So, very used to that. But of all the kickboxing stuff that I could find, it seems like he fought pretty much the same way every time. Like at the beginning of the round, he would kind of block and he would shell up a little bit. The guys would start attacking, landing their shots, and slowly Yusuf would build momentum,
Hmm.
as the fight goes on. So, I would say that he's a fighter that can weather some damage, can take some punches, and that he kind of relies a lot on the opponent to tire out. And yeah, I mean that's a good strategy. But again, for his MMA fight, he only fought a kickboxer. He got the guy to the ground a little sloppily. It
Hmm.
wasn't that good, but he didn't. It didn't have to be.
Hmm.
He got the guy to the ground. He landed a couple of punches, and then he got a RNC. And so, and I see that he trains with. I think it's what is it? It's a kickboxing gym.
Hmm.
It might be Tiger Muay Thai or something like that.
Okay. Yes.
It's a big, it's
Yeah.
a
In,
big
in
gym.
in
Yeah, yeah,
Thailand.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Right. And so I know that he's probably going to have the advantage in striking.
Hmm.
Um, and my advantage has been in the last fights, it's been on the ground.
Right.
But I expect, see, because I like to think about what they're going to do if they fight me.
Hmm.
And I would think, being that he is a kickboxer, he probably thinks that I'm looking at that and I'm going to try to take him down and try to get my submissions and work on the ground stuff, right, and be successful that way. But I think he would prepare for that.
Hmm.
So I'd also think like I trust my striking enough, that I can do it on the feet as well. I
Hmm.
feel really good about my boxing, and I feel good about, timing kicks and stuff like that. And I know that even if he lands something really good, that I can weather that. I've fought Muay Thai fighters before, not as
Hmm.
experienced as him, but I have, and I've had good success. So, game plan, do my shit, work my moves, and hope everything comes out the right way. I think that the dude's going to be tough, but I don't think he's tougher than me. And I think my willpower and my training and my teammates are what is going to bring me the victory. And they seem confident that I can get it in the first round. I'd never like to call which rounds my fights are going to be in. So, for me, it could go to decision. It could be second, first, whatever. But I do think that I'm going to win.
Second round
I hope so.
submission. That is my prediction. I've been thinking about it for a while. Um, I'll tell you when we're not recording why I think that, but that is my prediction. I think you're gonna be able to figure him out by the second round and finish that fight. I'll tell you why when we're not recording. But Ethan, before I let you go, I wanted to give you an opportunity though. I know that you have so many people that are working with you behind the scenes to make sure you're ready for this fight. People that are training with you, cutting the weight with you, probably getting that road work in there with you that don't get the spotlight, that aren't making that walk out there with you. I'd like to give you the opportunity to shout those folks out, or if there's any people that are supporting your team that you would also like to talk about.
Well, first, yeah, I always like to thank my family. My dad, Dennis Hughes, my mom, Rebecca Hughes, and my brother, Dennis Jr., my sister, Cameron. They're all the people that have built me. They have had rough lives, and they've helped it to where I can have a good one. And so I'm always very thankful for them. Um, and then I would like to thank my teammates. I trained particularly with David Gordon and Kurt Hollowbo. They're both MMA fighters. David is on the rise. He's one of those up and coming guys. He's also undefeated. So keep an eye out for him. And my brother as well. My brother he's fought only killers, and he's done a pretty damn good job at it. He's earned a lot of people's respect, and he definitely deserves that. So definitely you get an interview with him sometime. He's worth it. Um, and then yeah, my coach Kurt, because he's for me. He definitely was the guy that came through. He went through Strike Force, and then he got to the UFC, and he's been such a phenomenal coach. And then I'd like to thank my sponsors. There is Southbound Overstock for the people that I wore. I'm wearing the shirt because I just got off work, and they've helped me a lot. Sponsorship and getting money for me to pay for the medicals, because that's another part of it. Is like there's a lot of expense that goes into this stuff, more than you'd think, and so they helped me with that. And I'd like to thank Mangiamo's. They're a restaurant here on the coast. Um, they're an Italian place. It is phenomenal food. If you're ever down in like Gulfport, Biloxi, check them out. They're awesome. And I would like to thank Chop Shop Diesel. They've helped me out a lot with some of those medical expenses as well, and they're very nice people. And I think that's everybody. If I don't get them, I'm sure they're probably going to chew me out. But that's all I can remember. So I'll make a post of anybody I did get.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. Make sure you check out Ethan's fight. It happens at Bellator 290 on February 4th in Inglewood, California. That's coming up very, very soon. You are not going to want to miss it. Ethan, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to having you back very soon.
Thank you, brother.